complicated mother-daughter relationships. You may be watching my channel and thinking, wait a minute, this is not Black Women in Toxic Jobs. We're talking about this because mother-daughter interactions has implications for jobs in terms of how we show up. Because when we think about having that relationship with your mother, that's your primary attachment figure. And has implications on how you see yourself, how you see and how you interact with other people, how you show up in the workplace. So that is why we're talking about this today. Another reason why we're talking about this today is that this channel provides an opportunity for Black women to talk about our full range of experiences. It doesn't matter what it is, we're going to talk about our full range of experiences and experiences that often don't get an opportunity to be talked about lively and open and on social media streets. This is why we're talking about it here, because as Black women, we're often silenced and shamed about our experiences, but we are unapologetically talking about our experiences here. And we're talking about our experiences about complicated relationships with mothers. Now, let me say this. This is not saying that all relationships with mothers are complicated. That's not what I'm saying, okay? We're talking about there's a continuum, and we're talking about today the complicated relationships. This is a continuation of the conversation we had earlier on Mother's Day, actually talking about when Mother's Day hurts. So it's the continuation of that conversation, as the audience has requested to have a follow-up conversation. It was a very lively conversation. If you want to see the part one, go back and look at the part one. So it's a continuation of that. So again, this is really to provide a space for us to talk about the experiences of Black women. Many times we don't talk about these experiences of complicated mother-daughter relationships amongst Black women, because in the Black community, Black mothers are revered. We're often taught that we don't talk about these issues outside of our families, but we cannot heal if we don't talk about these issues. And many of us who've had these experiences feel a sense of shame and silence, and that we're alone. So we're having an open dialogue about these conversations. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I've been licensed over 20 years. I'm also a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm also the co-founder with Marissa Price of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women. If you would like to get the replay, that information is in the description section. Also have a butterfly community for Black women, YouTube community. And this week we're going to have a Black woman OBGYN talking about perimenopause and menopause. So if you would like to be a part of the community and join the members live, then you need to join the community. So I'm going to have my panel introduce themselves, and I'm going to tell you the format of our panel discussion today. So Tisha, you're up first.
Hello, my name is Tisha Mitchell, hailing from Metro Atlanta, also known as the Midlife Makeover Maven. I'm so excited to talk about this subject. So thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Danny.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danny Ellison. Thank you so much, Dr. Kamani, for having me again and for opening this space up for us again. I'm a reparenting coach for Black women, and I help them to reparent after going no contact with narcissistic mothers. And this month, I'm celebrating 8 years no contact with my mother.
Wow. Okay, welcome. Thank you, Danny. Sandra.
Hello, everybody. Dr. K, thank you. As always, it's a pleasure when we get together. I know there's going to be healing whenever we come together and we talk openly and authentically about our experiences. I am Sandra. I am the founder of From Lack to Legacy. It's a learning community where we help Black women get right with their money, and we help you move on in your money relationships with ease. And I am also zero contact or no contact with my mother. And I think it's about 3 or 4 years now. So I'm always happy to talk about it in the hopes that someone will be healed and be set free.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. Elle.
Yeah.
Hi, y'all. I'm Elle, hailing from the bright and warm city of Seattle. I'm very happy to share. Summer is here. And I'm also known as the Empress of Ease. I'm the founder of the House of Ease, where I help high-achieving women create lives that feel as good as they look without exhaustion, overwork, or burnout. I am also 7-8 years, I can't remember the exact year, but I'm 7-8 years no contact with my mother. And it's a bittersweet experience, but I always find solace and connection and community. And I'm so grateful to be in part 2 of our conversation with you all. So thank you for having us, Dr. Kimani, and thank you all for being here together again today.
Thank you. And I just want to say to the ladies, thank you in advance, because this conversation is much needed. Because as a therapist, I hear about this a lot from my therapy clients. But again, we don't openly talk about these things. So I'm glad we're having this open conversation. Last time we had you guys were very vulnerable, very transparent. And I know these conversations can be very healing for Black women who are struggling with these issues, but often struggling in silence. So again, thank you so much. So the format of our discussion today, after our last live, I was telling the ladies, we had an after party. Okay. So after the last live, we were on for a very long time, processing so many different issues. So I wrote down all these different issues. I said, we're going to talk about this in part 2. Okay. So in the part 2 today, I'm just going to be throwing out the different topics we talked about in the after party, and whoever wants to comment on it is going to comment on it, okay? So, ladies, we talked about low contact compared to no contact. Can someone or anyone talk about, distinguish the difference between the two, or how would somebody know how or determine which one they should go for?
I'll jump in since I'm low contact.
Okay.
I did have to go no contact for a spell, right? So for me, low contact is knowing when I'm healing and knowing what spaces are triggering for me and staying away. So for me, I have not completely broken off contact with my mother. However, I have significantly reduced the amount of contact that I spend with her on the phone. And my visits are, once or twice a year, where it was significantly more than that. So I was very much enmeshed with my family for a very long time, and now so much not so. I'm grateful because I can see things a little bit more clearly now.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up question? How did you come to the decision to have low contact?
That's interesting. Triggers. I was having a conversation with my mother where I was triggered to the point where I was crying like a 10-year-old child. And for me, that was a wake-up call, not in the reaction, but really wanting to do some investigation as to where that reaction came from. And as I started peeling back the layers, her influence, I couldn't have her influence as I was healing, as I was kind of pulling back the onion to figure out what was going on. And over time, as I was peeling back those layers, understanding what that trigger was, I realized that like reducing the amount of contact I had with her was healthier and healthier for me along my journey. And I'm glad that happens, because now I can be more objective, because my interactions with her are not triggering, because I've reduced them so much.
Got it. Okay. So what was interesting is you talked about having the contact with your mom reverted you back to your inner little girl. So you were hurting, and then you were able to identify the source of the problem was your mom. And when you had less contact, you were less harmed. So you minimized the contact.
What I realized was that the harm was in her interactions. And bigger than that, I realized that she was not in a space where she could protect me, and that it was not safe to be vulnerable with her. But I didn't realize that at the time. I was just hysterical, really. Was just kind of going through something and wanting to go to my mom for comfort, and realizing at that moment, that's not going to happen. So you've got to figure out what is going on with that, so that you have peace in your own self.
Yeah. So the expectation of mom is the nurturing one to protect you and to comfort you, that was not there.
It wasn't there. And at that point, I didn't realize how much I had missed it, how much I needed it, because I was in a very vulnerable space. I realized that I had been protecting her for a very long time. And when I needed her, she just did not have the capacity to give me what I needed at that moment. And it reverted back to when I was very small. That was a pattern over time for me.
Okay. Thank you. What about one of you who have no contact with your mom? Can you talk about what contributed to having no contact, and what got you to the point of saying no more?
I'll jump in because before I went no contact, I was low contact. And so for me, it wasn't a matter of waking up one morning and saying, you know what, I'm done. It didn't happen like that. But what I can definitely identify with what Trisha said is that those interactions were so painful. They were so anxiety ridden that it just became unbearable. It's like, why do I keep putting myself through this, expecting that this interaction is going to be different when I know this? I'm 50 years in. This interaction is not going to be different. And it's not because I don't want it to be different. But Trish, you said it. My mother just didn't have the capacity to make this interaction any different. And so to continue to put myself in that position, it made no sense at all. And so low contact was the first step, which for me looked like not being there for holidays, or definitely not entertaining phone calls, and very much curating when and how and the length of time that I would give to interacting with my mother. And then from there, once I got comfortable there, because the thought of not talking to your mother, I mean, come on, ladies, who are we kidding? Black women, that's just not something that we do. We put up with it. We don't, you could probably look around in a room. There are probably only 1 or 2 people that you know who would even admit that there's zero contact or low contact with their mother. So it's just not it's not a cultural norm for us. But that doesn't mean that it's not necessary. So once I got comfortable with, wait a minute, I'm feeling better. I'm not stressing about these things. My holidays are quieter and more peaceful and more joyful. Once I settled there, I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense now to even interrupt my peace to any degree, expecting that this thing is going to get better. And so it was the most logical next step, which was to be like, you know what? I wish you well. I love you. I respect you, but I'm going to do it from over here. And we don't have to interact. We've had a lifetime of interactions, and I'm grateful for all of it, the good, the bad. I learned from all of it, and I appreciate you, but deuces. I'm out. I'm not doing it anymore. I wouldn't take that. We wouldn't take that behavior from strangers. We wouldn't allow a lover or an employer, or we would, but over time you'd be like, this makes no sense. I don't see it any differently. You know, the guilt kind of dissipates over time. It's the healthiest thing that I could have done for myself. It's just the reality. I just had to come to the harsh reality that this is the way it has to be for me to be happy. And if you're not going to make yourself happy at 50, what you waiting on, 70, 80, 90? No, I'm going to be happy at 50 because I did it the other, 50 years prior. It was enough. I just got to the point where I felt like I have given enough. I've hoped enough. I've been disappointed enough. The pattern doesn't change. So first for me, low contact, then absolutely no contact.
Yeah. So it sounds like it was a progression over time for you.
Yeah. It took a while too. And I mean, I'm talking about there were years of low contact before I decided to go no contact.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious for all of you, either low contact or no contact, what type of backlash did you encounter? Because as you are right, that in our community, that is not a thing, that we talk any kind of way about our mother, or we don't have contact with our mother, like that is not a thing. So what type of backlash did you encounter, and how did you deal with that backlash?
I want to answer the low contact, no contact, and then I want to speak to that first. Sure. So before I didn't have the language of narcissism, right? I didn't know the word. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know the signs, but something in me had to stop engaging emotionally with my mother. And now I know, in terms of narcissistic, vocabulary, I was gray rocking her, right? Like, which is like, you are just a gray rock. When they talk, you are just neutral, right? There's no emotional output. And I did that for a while. And I was like, oh, there's a name for this. There's a reason for this. There's a whole context and container. So that would happen before low contact for me. I was just like, I don't know why I need to not interact with her, but she's not, like they've said, honoring my emotions, right? She's not safe. She's not hearing me. So I'm going to stop giving her emotions to then ignore or throw back in my face or weaponize. So that was my first step. And then when I did go no contact, I come from a very bougie people, not just me, the community I was raised in, right? So people don't say these things out loud, right? They're not like, why aren't you talking to your mother? Which is me as a direct communicator. I value, check me, right? Like if I'm outside, check me, call me out so then we can actually have a real conversation. But the kind of Black bourgeois, all that community that I grew up in,
Mhm.
it's rich in silence and rich in secrecy, right? We
Mhm.
don't talk about it. So my exile was silent and secret. People, no one checked me. No one asked to do a mediation. And these are people who get paid very well for mediation. Many people who raised me are consultants and very big wigs, and they have the skill set
Mhm.
for the outside world, but
Mhm.
not for the inside world, right? And so my exile was just what's shunned. I was just shunned as if I didn't exist. And that, I think, is the biggest heartbreak. I didn't know I would lose everybody when I went no contact with my mother, and I did.
Wow. So the loss was the loss of everyone.
Everyone,
Wow.
siblings, aunt and uncle. Like, I have a very small nuclear family, but even the community of chosen family who raised me, I'm exiled from them all.
Oh, wow. Wow. So there's a huge cost. There was a huge
Huge,
cost as well. Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What about for you, Danny? Was there any backlash when you went no contact with your mom?
For sure. It took years, really, before I think anybody got it. And I can just say everything that has been said so far is dead on.
Mhm.
And I love that the women here represent the different gradients that we experience as daughters with abusive mothers who are on this narcissistic spectrum, because it does look different and it's not a one size fits all necessarily.
Mhm.
It has been said, I know I've said it, I know Elle has said it. Nobody is going no contact for fun. You
Right.
know, it's not just a knee jerk decision that you make out of haste, right? It's not like I'm petty and I'm ghosting my mom.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
go no contact because we've done absolutely everything that we can do. We've tried, we've bent over backwards, we shrunk ourselves down, we tried to be invisible, we tried to be whoever we needed to be to get the friendship with our mother that we really desired. And ultimately, we realized that it was never going to work.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that backlash from so for my mom's side of the family, we don't really talk much. So it's really just my mother that I was in contact with on her
Mhm.
side. But from my dad's side of the family, I experienced a variety of responses because it looks so bizarre from the outside looking in.
Mhm.
You can't understand. If you don't have a mother who has this mental illness, it doesn't make sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when I went no contact, my family members that had been there from day one, who have seen with their own eyes how unbalanced my mother can be at times,
Mhm.
how volatile situations can become when my parents, both parents, are involved.
Mhm.
Even though I called them and cried out to them for help, they still could not understand.
Mhm.
It just, my granny, the classic church going, good cooking granny, she could not
Mhm.
understand.
Mhm.
Like, what do you mean you don't talk? That's your mother.
Right. Right.
And
I
she
understand
lost
all
her
that,
mother.
but she's your mama.
Right, right. And
Mhm.
that's when you realize that the people around you are running programming. They're
Yeah.
not awake.
Yeah.
They're not responding to reality. They're not making lucid decisions. They're just running programming
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
that's how they survive.
Mhm. Mhm.
And my granny lost her mother when she was young, like 13 or 14,
Mhm.
maybe even a little younger. So for me to have a mother and not contact her did not make sense to her, even though she saw it. My granny was my refuge. So even
Mhm.
though she knew that sometimes I call her and tell her things that make absolutely no sense,
Mhm.
she still couldn't fathom not forgiving her, not moving forward in a relationship with her. She
Yeah.
asked me, "How can she abuse you over the phone?"
Mm.
Wow.
Wow.
The
Like this
concept of
thing.
verbal abuse didn't exist to her.
Right.
So, a lot of judgment. My faith was questioned. Like, what kind of Christian are you? Wouldn't
Oh,
Oh,
Jesus forgive?
ooh,
That's your mother. Shouldn't you
ooh,
forgive? Right.
wow.
Um, my dad told me to soften my heart. And this was years into the no contact. But ultimately, what happens, not just in my case, what happens when you go no contact, when you're the scapegoat and you
Mhm,
pull your energy back, eventually that narcissist has to offset that energy somewhere. So those other people around them start to absorb the hate that was assigned to you.
mm,
That means your siblings may shift, the roles in the family may shift. And now all of a sudden you have people calling you like, what? Multiple family members are coming to my mind. People who have called me and have done a complete 180. Like, oh, I
mm,
understand now. Yeah, I bet you do understand now. You blocked her too. Oh, okay. Interesting.
mm.
Interesting.
So the true colors are starting to come out. They start to see certain things. Yeah,
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 definitely.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
You know what, Dr. Kamani,
Um,
the flip side of that, though, for
yeah.
Danny, to piggyback off what you're saying, is,
Hmm.
and she said this, these are family systems. So people
Yeah,
work in systems. So when
yeah,
you decide to go no contact, you're disrupting not just the relationship with that parent,
yeah.
but the entire system. That's
yeah,
number one. Number two, when you're able to stand up and say no, there are people who would also like to disrupt the family system, but they don't have what's in it. They
Mhm.
either
Yeah.
decided they're not going to, they've decided the backlash is too much. And so you
Mhm.
become a mirror to people who may want to make that same
Yes.
choice, but have decided for whatever reason they're just going to take it and they're just going to ride it
Mhm.
out.
Yep.
So
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
not just the issue with the parent, but there is that disruption in the system and
Yeah.
people having to confront what sometimes is a negative system that maybe they don't want to see, because once you do it,
Yeah.
now you've got a choice you have to make.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Yes.
I think that also strongly contributes to the exile, to the shunning,
Yes.
because
Mhm.
there is this unspoken, I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but there's something like, how dare you? How dare you be the one who did it? How
Mhm.
dare, and
yep.
I have to
Yeah.
stay, right? Like that,
Mhm.
how dare you leave and I have to stay? Not, and I don't think they know or are aware of what it takes to leave, right? Like what it actually takes to leave and be sustained. It's so grueling. As Danny said, as I say, no one goes no contact for joy. Like this is not Shangri-La, right? But it's
Right.
like it's survival. And I think people are resentful. Maybe that's a better word. Like how I have to stay. I'm not choosing to leave. How dare you? And
Yeah,
that contributes to the othering.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of
Ladies,
like,
I just want
That
to
is
jump in
that.
there too.
yeah,
Because I wanted to say, I think we're being so kind and so
Yeah.
gentle with this. Let's call it what it is. You have to have courage with a capital C to
That's
pull that
right.
trigger and say, you know what? I don't care what you all say. I don't care who likes it. I don't care what you say. And I've experienced all of it, Elle, from the shunning. And for me, luckily, that wasn't my entire family. I still have family members that I'm in touch with. Of course, those relationships have changed. People are very,
Mm,
they're very delicate. So they're just things we don't talk about. The relationships have changed. But luckily for me, I'm not totally out of contact with everybody in my family. But what I did notice is that people, I don't know, maybe this is a Black family thing. They will take a lot of liberties and say things that, wait a minute, first of all, this is none of your business. Really, it's none of your
Mhm.
business.
Right.
So, but I've had people say, write it down. I heard all of that. Forgive your mom, soften your heart. Wait a minute. You have no idea what
none.
my day to day life was like. How dare you overstep in this way and tell me how I should be responding? So I think, the gamut of all of those experiences, from being totally shunned by some family members that I haven't spoken to since, because I think the closer they are to my mother, there's
mhm,
almost like this loyalty. You almost have to choose a side. And
mhm,
I'm okay with that. Pick a side. I'm used to standing. I want people who are listening to know that it takes courage. The women that you see that you're looking at, they were courageous
yeah,
first before anything.
Yes.
It does take some stamina to kind of see this thing through. But I want to offer this one too. I'm
mhm,
not the longest zero contact, But for whatever reason, I've been able to kind of, maybe I'm the oldest, I don't know. But when you start realizing I've got more days behind me than ahead of me, oh, I don't have time for any of the foolishness. And so I have decided I'm just going to reclaim all the joy. You know how many years of joy I need to reclaim? I don't care what they say. I don't care what they think. But I did experience every facet of that, from being shunned by relatives, and that was fine because they weren't adding anything to my life anyway. and then just those the family members where the relationship changed slightly, and that they're just things that we don't talk about. That's fine too, whatever makes you comfortable. But what I have learned is that I will set a boundary. I'm the best boundary setter now. Before, I was never able to set a boundary. Well, I may have said it, but my mother didn't respect that boundary. And it was this pattern of, over and over again, set this boundary and have her cross the boundary, say all kind of crazy. I'm the best boundary setter I know now. You get 1 or 2 times to say something crazy to me, and I promise you, I will soft shoe right on away from you. You won't even know. You will be asking, what happened? Where did Sandra go? Sandra is pursuing joy.
The soft shoe image is hilarious to me.
Jazz hands, baby, right on out your life. Time for it.
Yeah.
You become very good at setting boundaries. I don't allow people to say just anything to me. You may say it once, but you won't say it twice.
Yeah.
It took me years to get to even understand the insanity that I was raised in. It took me years to even know that I needed boundaries, because I lived in a home that with so much enmeshment and so much invalidation of boundaries that I didn't even know how to set, not even how to set them, that I needed to set them, right? Like I didn't even, it took years of work. And now you're right. As soon as I'm like, I get a smell of a red flag, I'm out. Because I know where the road goes now. I know how it ends. I know no matter how hard I work, no matter how much I can teach and preach and heal and hold and love and free, it don't matter. If you are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It doesn't matter. So the red flag, I'm out. And I was raised with the messaging of like, you just keep on loving. You just keep on healing. You just keep on being present. Hopefully someone will come around. Now I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah.
But Elle, do you ever run this? Do you ever have this conflict? Because I think early on, now in the journey, I'm very clear because I've learned to trust what my instinct, my gut, my little girl, when she acts up and says, hey, this person is not Team Sandra, I respect that the first time. Maya Angelou said it, when people show you who they are, believe them the very first time.
That's right.
That took me some time to get to. And I would, and maybe because of my daughter, she's such a mirror. She would be like, Mommy, you will cut a person in a New York minute. Yes, I will. But, there was a time when I would second guess that, like maybe I misread this, or maybe they didn't intend to. If you're stuck there, sis, let me tell you, trust your gut. 100%. Your body, there's so many books. We talked about this last one. The last time, I think The Body Keeps the Score. Your body is going to signal to you. If everything in your body is going off, if you leave those interactions more depleted than you are built up, it is what it is. So I would hope that we could shorten the path for someone who is in that space where you're second guessing, because nobody gets there overnight.
Yeah.
If you trust, the body says it, that's what it is. And don't feel guilty, because even if you discover down the line that, oh, maybe I acted hastily, if that person is a good person and they really didn't mean to, and their intention wasn't to be harmful, you can always go back and apologize. You can always go back. I tell you, that rarely happens. My instinct have been honed from a little girl. I knew how to keep safe. You learn how to keep safe around people. You learn to read people. You become an astute reader of body language. I can listen. Everything. You can change the tone of your voice. I will know what was said before I even entered the room. That's how much abuse I had to wade through. I had to learn how to keep safe. And trust me, that gift of being able to discern what is right for you and who's in alignment with you, it gets easier over time. But I would say to you, trust your body, trust 100%. That feedback that you're getting, and go with it and don't look back.
100%.
Yeah. So I just want to highlight a few things that we said. Number one, intuition, trust your intuition. the importance of boundaries, paying attention to setting boundaries when people violate the boundaries. Also, Danny, you really highlighted the issue, and Tisha, about family systems and how people have the expectations that we stay in a certain role. And when the person comes out of the role, people are like, wait a minute, you're supposed to stay in a role. And when you come out, then other people start getting a flavor of this person, right? The other thing that is very concerning is that sometimes within our family systems, we give excuses for family members who are dysfunctional, right?
Hello.
Oh, that's just your mama. Oh, that's just, you know how she is. Let's just, whatever. But we condone it. And then it just allows the cycle to continue. The other thing about sometimes in our communities is that we condone certain pathological behaviors, right? So some pathological behaviors we condone might be if you know that your mother is engaging in very harmful behaviors, the expectation is that you stick it out. You stick it out. You don't leave your mama. You just stick it out, right? So if other Black women hear that you are low contact or no contact, you might hear something like, "Why would you do that? You know what? I don't have a good relationship with my mama, but I'm still with her. You know what I'm
That's
saying? I
right.
would not do that to my mama, right?" So, what type of maybe backlash do you get from other Black women who have like that judgmental tone, or may have a judgmental tone, because you have been courageous and said, "Wait a minute, I'm not going to jeopardize my mental health because of a situation that I'm having with my mother." What type of, or have you had that encounter with other Black women? And if so, how have you dealt with that? How have you addressed that?
So let me start by saying there's a couple things that I had to reconcile in my mind, right?
Okay.
So the story was you're just angry, just mad at your mom. The truth is, once you do your work, is that I wasn't angry as much as I was traumatized.
That's right.
And anger was my protection. So there's that. So you can call me angry, or you could say, what happened? But nobody was saying what happened. They're just saying you're just mad. Then I heard Iyanla Van Zant say something that was real, real clear. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. And once you take the label off your parent, so if this was not your mother, if this was just a human being in your life, how would you be interacting with this person the way that they're behaving right now? And so when I could take the label of mother off and look at the relationship itself and realize, oh no, this is not a situation where I haven't forgiven. That's the manipulative game you play. The truth of the matter is, I have forgiven and I've chosen to no longer engage in a relationship like this. Doesn't mean I'm mad at my mom for the past. It doesn't mean, it means that where she is right now and where I am as a human being, our values are out of alignment. And I am no longer willing to put my values on hold, shrinking, being smaller, pretending that the behavior is not hurtful in order to maintain a relationship. I'm just not willing to do that. So when I was clear about what it was, the anger had healed. You know, there are things that she did. My mom was very immature. And in fact, to me, it felt, there's a quote that I put on my Instagram today. It says, the parentified daughter becoming the adult with an autoimmune disease is a missing link in health. A lifetime of carrying everyone else's burdens will always show up in the body.
Wow.
And I said in my 30s, and I would say it in a flip way, this is how I know this is God. I was like, y'all ain't about to kill me. And literally years later, when you see the research of being enmeshed, being parentified, of being codependent, of not speaking up for yourself, of not setting boundaries, it literally will kill you. And so I thank God for giving me that intuition. So I can say, I'm not mad at my mom. I haven't there's no unforgiveness, but the way that she shows up in life and what I value in life are not in alignment. It doesn't. So for me, I'm clear. Y'all can say whatever y'all want to say. I've gone through this whole healing journey and recognizing what it is. I don't hate her. I'm not upset with her, but she's blocked on my social media. I visit her only a couple times. Because think about it. My mom would comment on my social media. If I'm here 12 hours away by car, healing from your judgment and your comments, why would I allow you access to come back to me with judgment and comments? So I cut her off. And then my stepdad was showing her his, and I cut him off too. I don't want to share those things because I'm not inviting you or your opinion or your judgment or your guilt trip into my life. I'm not bothering you. I'm not going to allow your stuff on me.
Mm.
Now, if we can have a conversation, if we want to create a relationship from a healthy space, I'm down. But that's it for me. It's really giving people their own choices and accepting what they choose.
Mm-hmm. Again, boundaries.
Boundaries.
And
Boundaries.
Tish, what you said, there's scientific research to back everything that you said about that connection between how we repress anger, hurt, all those negative emotions, and how it's tied to our health. And I promise you, this morning, I just listened to a book. I'm about to give y'all something for free. There's an app called Blink List. And it will summarize, it will summarize a book for you. And this morning, I'm so smart, y'all. I read 3 books this morning. Blinkless, but one of the books was When the Body Says No. Another one that I wrote through again this morning was The Body Keeps Score. And then let me give you this other one. There was another one. Oh, It Didn't Start With You.
Right.
All 3 of those books examine the relationship between this kind of abuse and emotional repression with illness and how it sets up in our body. And sometimes it doesn't take a lifetime for that to show up. And so it is imperative, not just for your mental health, it is imperative for your physical health that you deal with this and deal with these people and just garner the courage to say, today I choose me. Today, I don't care. I don't care I don't care about the fallout. I choose my mental health and wholeness. I choose my physical health and wholeness. You all, there is also, and I promise you, read those books. If you're like me and your ADHD is set up, a particular way, get Blink List, get that app. The book, I think they took maybe 15 minutes, and it talked about the connection between ALS and people who are uncommonly nice. How many of us?
Whoa.
Tell me the name of the books again, Sandra.
When the Body Says No.
When the Body Says No.
Says No.
What's the other one?
The Body Keeps Score.
The Body Keeps Score.
And It Didn't Start With You. All 3 of those books, to some degree, talk about illness and emotional trauma and repression and how that can manifest itself in your body. And as Black women, we're already vulnerable to so many things because of the environment or whatever. The last thing we need to do is add fuel to the fire. So I'm all about health, wholeness on every level. So you're doing it not just for your mental health, but for your physical health as well.
I'm so glad you're highlighting this because we as Black women, we have to be extremely aware of these issues because the stress for us as Black women, it has taken us out. We have to be very aware of this. So thank you, Sandra, for really highlighting these books. So everybody, I'll put it up on the screen. So check out these books. Sister, you going to say something?
I was just going to say both my mom and her sister had autoimmune issues. And so it's one of those things where I really just did see it. And unfortunately for them, maybe where they were in their space, they were not able to be, to set the boundaries. And I do have some compassion for there, but I literally saw what my life was going to look like had I stayed.
See, yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, this is what I don't want for my life. And Sandra, you said something that was so beautiful too. You were like, look, I want a life of joy. Like I've had this behind me. I'm like, that's not what I want ahead of me. So I'm being intentional about creating the life that I want for myself. So ladies, let's talk about, for those of you who have siblings, with this whole dynamic with your mother, has there been some divide and conquer with your sibling as well, or siblings?
Yeah, I think about this often. So my family that I grew up with is very tiny. It was me, my mother, and my sister from 0 to 16. And then my mother married my stepfather when I was 16. But my family that I grew up with is very tiny. It was just me and my sibling. My sibling is 2 years younger than me and was my primary abuser. And the reason why I went no contact, essentially, I think about this regularly, more now, I think, than I ever have in my life, even since going no contact, is that my mother I'm the if we're looking at kind of traditional naming of things, would be considered the scapegoat, and my sibling would be considered the golden child, even though on paper my sibling had kids out of wedlock, all didn't go to all these things that would not qualify necessarily on paper as a golden child, but nonetheless they are the golden child in my family. And the reason, because I miss my mother. I have deep grief. I'm not like, forget her. I miss my mother. And when I'm like, but do you want to go back? No, the only thing that the stopgap, thank God for whatever is in my brain that's like reminds me that my mother doesn't protect me from my siblings. To this day, I'm not safe in that house. To this day, my mother will defend, excuse, justify, rationalize any harm that my sibling causes, not only to me, but to their children. And so I don't have an ally and an advocate. My sibling is mentally ill and has been for most of their lives and was undiagnosed and unmedicated. And so for whatever reasons, because I don't even try to understand my mother's reasons, they're not my business. That's her business to take care of. She did not address it or protect me. And so I didn't have an ally with my sibling or with my mother. And that left me feeling isolated and alone in my family. And I have older siblings who are not my mother's children, but from my father. And they, for whatever their own reasons, which I can assume, but they align with my mother and my younger sibling, my mother, not my younger sibling. I think they just take my younger sibling as comes with the package. But for all of the reasons that we named, they don't want to go against my mother because of what inheritances may come or how they might benefit from allying with her. And so I'm just, when I say shunned, I mean shunned. I mean like exiled for real. Like there's no one who's like, we see you. There's no one.
How does that feel? Like, have you, like, we talk about it like up here, right?
Yeah.
But we haven't gotten into, because I still see the pain now. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that? How you feel?
I have deep grief. I miss my mother. I like her as a person. That's the hard part. Like it's not like I can be like, she's my mother's not mean, right? I didn't grow up getting spanked or yelled at or these things that we traditionally consider abuse, right? Like my mother's a likable person. And so going no contact with her, and she's very caring, she's very warm, she's very affectionate, like all these things that I really cherish in mothering, right? Like I liked being mothered by her. But when she also allowed me to be abused for decades into adulthood, I had to choose myself. That I have grief. It's very painful. It's not like I said before, Shangri-La. It's not milk and honey on the other side for me, right? And right now, and I've lived a lot of places, I've traveled a lot of places, but having been back in Seattle for 2 years, and a friend of mine has a gorgeous art gallery, and they were celebrating their year anniversary, and I was working, and I didn't know my mother was part of a art collective who had the current exhibit at my friend's gallery. And so at this 1 year anniversary, my mother was there and I didn't know she was going to be there. And I went into a panic mode. I had a panic attack and had to leave. Wow. I had to leave because although all of that's true, I'm a direct communicator. And I can't pretend anything and I can't lie about anything. So I could not see her and then be like, hey, which she would have done. She would have been like, hey, I haven't seen you. I heard you're back in town, because I did get an email after that, which was like, I heard there's been a sighting of you, right? This is her. I haven't talked to her at 7 years at this point. I heard there's been a Seattle sighting of you, right? She's all cheer and butterflies. Or I won't say butterflies, Dr. Kimani said. She's all cheer and like bubble gum, right? Like she's all happy. So I had a panic attack and had to leave because if I had seen her, I couldn't pretend. Yeah. And I would have to confront, right? And I wasn't going to confront her in that a very joyous occasion. So I say all that to say it's complicated, it's hard, and I still can't go back because there is no accountability. Yeah. If she had said, I'm sorry, I left you outside and vulnerable and I'd be willing to have a conversation.
Yeah. But you know what, Elle, I think and just what you said is so critical and crucial,
Mm.
because people think that when you go no contact, you're just leaving the bad stuff. You're not. You're leaving the
not.
good stuff too. My
Yeah.
mom wasn't horrible. And it's very similar. She didn't protect me. You know, she parentified me, but she was not a horrible person. They're not, they're not, the dynamic is so tricky and so
Mhm.
volatile.
Yes.
And it's not that you're just walking away from the bad, you're leaving the good too.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Whatever that is.
That's
And
right.
you miss that. And I don't think that people really the title is it's complicated, and Elle is explaining exactly why that is.
Yeah.
That's right.
And ultimately the self-preservation comes above everything else, right?
Yeah.
But
And
that's
that
not
you
what we're
center
taught.
that. Yeah,
Mhm.
but what we're talking about is that self-preservation is so important. And L is that you recognize that there was an image of your mom. There's a part of your mom that you love and you gravitate towards, and that's the part that you're grieving. But
Mhm.
the other part is realizing the reality of her is something that she's not able to provide you, right?
Correct.
And that's the deep grief. That's the deep grief.
That's it. That's the complicatedness. And that because I have such a small family, right? Like my mom, the only siblings of hers that I know didn't have kids. So I don't have first cousins I was raised with. My biological grandfather is one of 10 kids, but I don't have a relationship with that family, right? So it's like the isolation is amplified because I literally don't, even my uncle who recently passed away last year was like, even when last time I would see him, he was saying, he's like, I know, similar that you all, I know your mom. We know your mom. I understand. I know why, but why don't you just call her? Why don't you just talk to her? Why? Like there's an acknowledgement and a yeah, but right. Like
And they don't understand as discounting your feelings. Like it's like
100%.
a total discounting of the experience. Yeah.
Discounting, dismissing. It's like you are the collateral damage. Don't you know that you're the sacrifice? So it doesn't actually matter. I'm acknowledging it, but sacrifice yourself anyway.
Yeah.
That's part of it. There's another part though too, is that we often forget that one person can be in relationship with you one way and in relationship with everybody else in a totally different way.
Very true.
Right.
So I have a family member who is estranged some from her daughter, and I get it from both ends, right? But I totally get it from the daughter's perspective. I feel it. I understand how her mom showed up for her, but her mom and I have a different relationship. And so oftentimes it seems like a betrayal when you're having a relationship with one family member that has difficulty with someone else. And so oftentimes, especially in my family, the kids are around like trying to figure it out because our moms were in their own world, but those are also your cousins that you grew up with and you still have a good relationship with them, even though they may have had a troubled relationship with their child. So when we say it's
complicated.
There's nobody who could be in relationship with my mother who could understand my relationship with my mother from my perspective, because she's not the same to them.
Right. Very true.
I've heard that even in family systems, no sibling gets the same parent.
Absolutely.
My mother, when I think about that, what it brings to mind is my grandmother, my mother's mother, was my life. She was my lifeline. But I can only imagine that she was a very different mother. I don't know what kind of mothering my mother received. We don't talk about it. Something happened. I think that's one thing we can all agree on, that our parents didn't evolve in petri dishes. They didn't evolve in vacuums. Something happened in their development or along the way, whether they were traumatized, whether they ever talk about it, acknowledge it, or admit it. Something happened. You don't arrive at this kind of behavior where you treat your children or loved ones this way if something didn't happen. Something happened. So I think we can all acknowledge that. And so I would only imagine that it must have happened under my grandmother's care, but my grandmother showed up for me in a very different way. And so I think it's important for us to make way for, these are people. They were people before they had us. They had lives, they had traumas, they had all these things. That right there, that thing has made it so much more easy for me to see my mother objectively.
Yeah.
You know, it was unfortunate that our relationship unfolded the way it did. It was unfortunate, it was painful. But you all, when we do tough things, we build capacity. And so I'm not even mad about it. That the title is It's Complicated. Yes, it is very complicated. But for those of us that do the work, we evolve this thing. I know
Right.
some of the ladies have chosen not to have children. And that you know, your body, your choice. Nobody should, you know what I'm saying? I totally understand that. It wasn't even a conscious choice for me to have children. By the time I was 21, they handed me my baby. I said, sir, I thought I was here for a tummy tuck. I mean, what do you mean? A baby? A baby. I'm 7 days short of my 21st birthday. I was a traumatized child. I was a traumatized parent. But having to live it as a child, having to live it and be a traumatized parent and watch the damage and watch the cycle, it gave me a unique seat of being able to see it as the victim, being able to see it as the perpetrator. And I'm talking about hard conversations that had hard healing between me and my daughter and my children. But because of that hard work, because of the complicated things that somebody has to do it, we've had the courage to do it. But you all, out of that, we've evolved. We're evolving so that either we put a stop to it, we don't perpetuate it, and that through forums like this, we teach other people that you can absolutely be victorious over this. And so it is complicated. And I think I'm sure it's got to be hard trying to make way and show grace and compassion for your abuser. That's hard. That's some of the hardest work I've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but when we do it and we master that work, we evolve out of that. And I think that's the whole point. That's the whole conversation for me is, Lord, let somebody be delivered. Let somebody receive or hear something that helps them so that they aren't 60 before they can find peace and resolve in this.
Yeah. Yeah. Go on. No.
The deep grace.
Oh, and I got to Jen after that. Go on.
The deep
Go
grace.
Elle and then Danny.
Say it again.
Go Elle and then Danny.
Oh, okay. The deep grace that I'm able to access for my mom and her peers and my elders and my ancestors is like, y'all came through some blankety blank. I don't want to cuss on your channel, right? Like, I'm like, everything that y'all have, I'm going to get probably teary just saying everything that my elders and ancestors had to do for me, even to be able to get here today. And the epigenetics, like we're talking about, the body keeps the score, the body, what enslavement to 2025? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, I can be mad, yes, but I can also have such a deep well of compassion to come from both my parents are from Texas, right? My mom is from a village that's never been larger than 1,500 people to this day, to go create this amazing larger than life from the segregated South, Jim Crow enslaved, right? Like, she was raised by her grandfather, my great grandfather, who was born 2 years after enslavement ended, and had 2 master's degrees and 2 undergraduate degrees. One of his degrees from Cornell University. Like, I don't know what he had to endure for that to be possible. I don't know what my grandmother and my grandparents had to endure for their lives to be possible, or my mother to endure. That doesn't justify anything. It doesn't rationalize anything, but it gives me a deep well of like, you've been through some blankety blank, right? Like, you've been through some stuff that I cannot even fathom. So I can draw the line, hold grace and compassion. I don't have to be in your line of fire, but I can know that, like, all this stuff that we're talking about in 2025 that we hold in our bodies, they got in their bodies, and they got you, right. Like, it didn't, like that book says, it didn't start with us. Right. So I just have to name that, because it gives me some kind of something that doesn't allow me to completely demonize my mother.
Right. So having a trauma-informed lens with understanding our family members,
that's right,
gives us compassion and empathy, and it also does not excuse the maltreatment, right?
That's
it also helps us understand that we need to prioritize ourselves too, and self-preservation is still important, right? Okay. Danny, what were we going to say?
Yeah, just everything that we're discussing is so important to so many different pockets of Black women. And I think it needs to be mentioned. So exactly what you were just saying, Elle, because of what we've been through as a people,
Mm-hmm.
traditionally we haven't had the opportunity, let alone the resources, to really process our trauma.
Right.
The best we could do to survive was turn to religion, spirituality. That was our only outlet.
Mm-hmm.
So our nature has been ingrained in us to accept abuse and skip the processing, go straight to the spiritual outlet because that's all that we had. And so when we talk about these family systems, it functions a lot like the Black church. And I think that's where our family systems learned how to be a family, because the Black
Mm-hmm.
church doesn't have tools or language for addressing the trauma, the systemic issues within our community. Otherwise, they would be better addressed.
Mm-hmm.
The church is not there to dig deep into our trauma. Unfortunately, the church is another government system. It's there to program us. It's yet another system that is exploiting us. And while there's truth in what the church has to offer, the church itself does not actually benefit from our individual healing. It's not interested in seeing us process the the deep weeds of our trauma. Instead, it wants us to gloss over that, to press into the different avenues that it offers us to engage with it as a system,
Yeah.
which is where that forgive and forget, move on, don't be angry because now you're being a bad Christian. You need to just pray about it and endure comes from. So while it is complicated, and yes, it is, we've highlighted a rainbow of perspectives on the issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
While it is complicated, this work is a privilege. And the Black women before us did not have the opportunity to do it. And it's not always clear from the outside looking in, but we don't do this work because we hate our mothers, because we want to
That's right.
shame them or hurt them or attack them.
Mm-hmm.
We love our mothers.
Mm-hmm.
We love our mothers the same now that we did before she harmed us.
Mm-hmm.
We do this work because we love her,
Mm-hmm.
because there's still something in us that wants to be the best that we can be out of love for her. And not just for her, for all of the women that contribute to who we are. But when you have the opportunity to capitalize on this freedom that the Black women before you have worked so hard to give you, and they see that, unfortunately, we're human. We're in an imperfect world. That triggers them. That brings on that "who do you think you are" syndrome. And unfortunately, Massa did his job well. It's like burned into my brain, that image of the Black church with the white man sitting in the back,
Ugh,
just observing the
Mm-hmm.
church happening to make sure nothing being preached is
liberatory.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. To an extent, you can feel better, you can praise, you can worship, you can learn, okay, fine, but nothing is actually going to cause you to free yourself. So now he doesn't have to be present in our homes, in our church house. The women who raised you will do his job for you because they've been so deeply ingrained. They beat it into us. So the women who raise you are going to teach you to grow up and sacrifice yourself to a system that grinds you to dust as its primary function, and be proud of it. Wear your 40 years on a government job as a badge.
Mm.
The number of degrees, the number of white institutions you can infiltrate to prove your humanity, your worth, your goodness. You have to take up this mantle of proving all the stereotypes wrong. And so when you have the courage, because yes, Lord, it takes courage to honor that voice within you that tells you the way you're being treated is wrong, that you're being overlooked, that you deserve, there's better for you. There's more. And when you're being constantly gaslit by your parent, your whole reality is topsy-turvy. So you're trying to escape a system that is constantly working against you. So to actually get out, to fully go no contact, is to liberate yourself in a way that is unforgivable and irrevocable, you can't go back. Any access they have to you, they're going to use to punish you. They're going to make every attempt they can to resubmit you to bondage because they lived their life in bondage. So when you pursue your worth and your freedom, when you quit that job that's killing you to pursue your dream, your passion, take a sabbatical, make your business, whatever you're doing, they're going to be the ones to shame you. You don't have to go to church. They are going to shame you for not working. They're going to be the ones to label you lazy Black woman, welfare queen. They will do it for the system. You don't have to be outside. They'll do it for you. And the low contact, I just want to say, low contact is an option for so many when abuse is present, when abuse is the norm. And it doesn't have to be physical or sexual abuse. I'm talking about when your parent humiliates you, teaches you that your humanity is not valid, that it's okay for her to treat you in a way that you never treat her, that it's never okay for you to treat her. When you hold space for her, you are preventing yourself from fully blossoming in safety and freedom. There's a part of you that has to always be prepared to switch back into survival mode. And when you let that go, when you decide that your inner child is worth more than holding space for an abuser, even if she happens to be your mother, that is how you transform from people pleasing victim to boundary setting badass. It comes naturally because you no longer allow anyone, not just your mother, but anyone ultimately to cross those boundaries. Yeah, this is a really powerful conversation, and I'm just
Danny,
so blessed.
Wow. That
I just,
was
girl, that was a whole word, Danny. And what I love too is that not only do you garner or pull back some of your power so that your mother can no longer victimize you, that thing spreads to everybody. Everybody can get it now. I don't care if
Mhm,
it's a job, an employer, a lover,
mhm,
a child, a sibling, everybody now. You
mhm.
have the power and the authority, the agency to everybody can get it. I say the person that you should fear the most is any woman who can go zero contact with her mother. Because if
Hello.
you can go zero
Amen.
contact
That's
with your
the
mother, baby,
realest.
everybody can get it. A
That's
man ain't safe.
I said if I'm not talking to the woman who grew me in her body and raised me for my entire, I don't care about none of y'all jokers. And not, I don't mean I don't care about people. I'm not saying I'm like a sociopath,
No.
but like anyone can get cut off.
Yeah.
Anyone who harms me, anyone. If I can cut off my mother, the most important, my first home. If I can
Yes.
cut off the most important, anybody can get. I don't. We are lethal weapons, really. At this point, we are not to be played with. Don't mess
And
around.
I think we have a charge. I think once you realize that, I almost feel compelled. Dr. K, usually when I do a live on my channel, I just turn the camera on. We're talking, we're just chuckling. When I get ready for this, I really do. I approach it with a totally different energy. I have to pray about it.
Mhm,
I prepare notes because I understand that this work is sacred in a way that maybe,
mhm,
maybe it didn't start that way for us and that we were just invited to the panel and we would share our experience. But I think after a panel or two, and this may be our third or fourth time talking about this, Dr. K, you begin to realize, whoa, I didn't go through all of that sacrifice just for my own freedom and liberation. That
mhm.
we have been chosen. That's why I think we talked about this before. Many of us have been labeled the black sheep when in fact we know we're the light workers. You know
yeah.
that somebody had to step up,
Mhm.
roll that, you had to hold that roll, somebody had to tote that bell, somebody had to do the work, somebody had to put their
Yeah.
back into it, call the thing what it was, break the cycle and move on. And it wasn't just for our own benefit. It is for those women who are listening. So if you hear yourself or see yourself in any of these stories, and I love that we all have different, you know, we could all go, I guess, go into tell all the details of what our parents did. And I don't know, I think it's okay to share. I don't know how useful it is because
Mhm.
there are, what I think is probably more helpful is that you notice the trends. When you
Mm-hmm.
hear us talking about gaslighting and projecting, there's
Mm-hmm.
some in triangulation. There are all those kinds
Parentification.
of things. Yep, all those dynamics, those dysfunctional dynamics. If you can identify those things, then you'll know. Like somebody hijacking the narrative and rewriting the story, rewriting the truth, withholding affection. All of those things, I would imagine that each of us has probably experienced one of those dynamics, those dysfunctional dynamics to some degree. And so I don't think it's necessary for me to share all the dirty details because, honey, I could tell you some stories. You would be like, Sandra, that didn't happen. That absolutely did happen. But I think what is more helpful is that you recognize these dysfunctional kind of interactions and dynamics in that within that system and the roles that are present throughout these systems, whether it's a dysfunctional family system or it's a toxic work environment. You will find that there's some commonalities, and if you
Mm-hmm.
can identify those, you can begin to liberate yourself,
Mm-hmm.
with some confidence that, yeah, that it is really happening to you, and that there are steps, and that you can see the joy. These women are joyful. Do these women look sad? These women don't look sad to me. These are business owners and authors, and
Yeah.
no, there's
Yeah.
hope. There's help.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
healing. There's hope.
Yeah. So first I want to say something. One, that having these conversations is liberating on so many different levels. Number one, each of you are speaking your truth and it's resonating with the audience. So we're going to read the community chat soon. But I am watching the chat and I'm watching how women are like, oh my God, me too, me too. Some woman was like, I'm in tears. So this is helping to liberate Black women. The other thing I want to say is when you think about talking about these experiences, you talk about patterns of behavior. Many times we don't recognize the patterns of behavior and how it shows up in other areas of our lives. So I started off talking about this conversation has parallels to toxic jobs because many times we don't think about how a relationship with our mothers can show up with a toxic job. Well, it could prime us for being in a toxic job and staying in a toxic job. So that's why it's important for us to talk about these kinds of things. The other thing, that's what I want to shift to, ladies. How can we break these patterns, right? So we're talking about many times it's been generational patterns. Sandra, you talked about having very courageous conversations with your children to break these generational patterns. How do we break these patterns so they don't continue? How do we break these patterns? Now that we're aware of it, how do we break these patterns?
I can start. I mean, and I'll kind of give just a little caveat to this, but in therapy before my divorce, my
Uh-huh.
therapist said your mom and your husband shows up as the same person in your life.
Mm,
And so as I was going through a very, very painful divorce, I really wanted to go back to the origins. And there were things that I learned in my research that I couldn't put language to, just like Elle said, but I
mhm,
felt some things like in my spirit that just wasn't quite right.
mhm,
So I had a baby at 14 years old.
mhm,
Okay. I was pregnant by the time I was 13. So that'll start you off by knowing, okay, what kind of relationship was going on with my mom at that time.
mhm,
Because I won't say that's where the lack of protection started, but that's where it manifested on the outside.
mhm,
And so, with that being said, I was very conscious. Well, let me start by saying this. Even growing up as a child, and I saw all of the dysfunction around me, I never felt like I was a part of that. I always felt
mhm,
like an observer of the
mhm,
adults in my life. Like I just never felt like I fit in with all of the dysfunction. And in
mhm,
fact, my mom and I had a conversation about a week or so ago where we were describing a situation that we both were in. And
mhm,
she described it as the greatest time she ever had. And I described it as the worst time I ever had. And we
mhm.
both were in the interaction, but we experienced it differently. And it
Wow.
had to do with my relationship dynamic with her. But what it helped me understand is she was clueless as to how her
Mm.
behavior impacted my life. And it was
Mm,
at that moment I could realize she wasn't malicious because for a
mhm,
very long time I thought that, right? why is she like this? And I was blaming. But part of even writing the book and going through my divorce was trying to unpack all of these feelings, where they come from, and processing them. But each time I'm able to speak, and I'm able to speak my truth, because I'm in my 50s. There are so many things I just didn't say because it wasn't safe. But as I'm saying things now, I realize, and this is why I can live in the forgiveness and say I'm still choosing, is I don't know, and I know my situation is different from Danny's. I think there were times maybe she was intentional, but more than that, I think she was just immature and had not grown to the space where she was conscious of what it is that she was doing. And she's still stuck in those patterns, right? And so with that being said, is when you see it show up in other places. And like I said, my ex and my mom were the same person. And I knew when I got that divorce, I had to figure out what was going on the other side of my mom, because I wasn't willing to carry that anymore. So I had to unpack it. But it showed up where I couldn't have a female boss. I definitely could not work for a Black female. I don't really like people telling me what to do. I don't like it when people are controlling. I don't like it when people don't hear my voice. Those were things that in my relationship with my ex seemed normal, right? And that's why I was in an emotionally abusive and dysfunctional marriage for so long. It didn't seem abnormal. So I started saying, who was the first person to treat me bad? Who was the first person to betray me? Who was the first one that when I spoke my mind shut me down? You go back and you start looking at those things so that you can heal on the other side.
Wow.
It takes a crisis, though, for many of us to even start to do the work.
Yeah. But it sounds like therapy was key to helping break the cycle.
Yeah, because I kept going, because I'm codependent and a people pleaser, and my mom, there's so much addiction going on. I kept internalizing and believing it was all me. I'm the only one that's willing to question stuff. I'm the only one that's getting mad. I'm the only one that's calling stuff out. So here I'm thinking, what's going on with me? And it was not. It was the system that was being called out, and the bravery that comes from saying, wait a minute, something's just not right. But when you're with people who want to manipulate you and control you and gaslight you, they'll keep saying, it's you. You did this. You're just mean. You just this. And because you're out there by yourself, you don't really realize that until you start to do your work, that you're being gaslit. You were being held in this box because that family system trumped how you felt as an individual.
Absolutely. Yeah. So true.
I think therapy is critical. I don't know. I'm sure maybe there are people who can find their way out of this without therapy. But for me, therapy was first the building block. No, well, even before that, just that feeling of something is off. Just taking a moment to acknowledge in myself that, wait a minute, this does not feel good. This does not feel right. And I don't care how many times you tell me that, it's something else and it's not this. That was, I think, that feeling, just sitting with it and saying, okay, this is off. And deciding, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I'm tired. You have worn me down to nothing. I'm done. Then you start to seek the help, therapy. But I would also say for me too, faith. And I'm not talking about church religion, going to church with the tambourine and singing in the choir. I'm talking about my faith in God, and that I have a personal relationship with him, and I don't need anybody in that. I know that I can pray. I can go and get some relief there. I can go and there's solace there for me. So for me, it was therapy first. That was the real help. But I also found that I'm leaning more into my faith, and that everything will be okay. I don't have to solve it all. All I need to really do is take care of Sandra, make sure that I'm doing everything that I can do, and the rest I leave up to God. Hey, if he can't fix it, it can't be fixed, and so I shouldn't be worrying about it anyway.
I got you. And Sandra, it sounds like you, in addition to therapy, faith, you also did something that I think is very powerful. You had open conversations with your children, and you apologized for your behavior.
That's the real work.
That is amazing.
That's the real work.
Don't do that.
It was giving my daughter everything that I wanted my mother to give to me. I had a choice. And my daughter is fearless, honey. She is one of the, I can tell you all this. This is my story. We had it out one time in a Target, And I promise you, I was in aisle 18, she was in aisle 19, and she was giving me the business. She was everything you said, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, oh, we're going to do this right here in Target? Oh, we're going to do it right here in Target. She was to me, and I had a choice. It is either you can allow this girl to say what's on her heart, everything that she's been wanting to say, and maybe she had to say it. Maybe she felt safer in a Target where it was not as intimate. I let her spill out. Well, we both were spilling out. I let her spill out. We did not care between the dishwashing liquid and the dog food. It all came, everything. She held nothing back. And I said, well, you know what? I am going to acknowledge, I'm going to give to her everything I wanted my mother to give to me.
Right.
I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to debate. I'm not going to try to negate. I'm not going to try to explain any of it. I hear you. I am so sorry that number one, I had a hand in any of your pain. Please forgive me. I pledge to you that'll never happen again. I will never, ever again interact with you in that way. And I am telling you, it unlocked, because even up until that time, I had, of course, been zero contact with my mother and to some degree had forgiven her, but it wasn't complete. It wasn't complete until my daughter and I really started doing that work and mending this relationship and seeing the value. The thing that I could never achieve with my mother, I can absolutely achieve with my daughter, and ensure her and instruct her and be there in a constructive way so that she doesn't perpetuate that behavior. We put that thing to bed in a Target. I mean, and we're still working. It's not a one-stop shop. One time you have it out, but we understand the dynamic, and I'm able to have real conversations. The same books that I share, we now do that work together. When I tell y'all, priceless. It was worth it. All the pain, all the lessons I had to learn along the way, it was worth it because I can restore this relationship moving forward. So it's hard work, but it's so worth it. So
that's a strong mama. That's a strong mama. To be able to be open to receive the feedback from your daughter, not get defensive, hear what she said, validate what she said.
That's right.
Acknowledge, say you were sorry, say you will not do that again. How powerful is that? That's an example of a powerful repair that so many of us don't have the opportunity to experience. So that was beautiful, Sandra.
Huge. That's huge.
Beautiful. You talk about some repair. That was
huge.
And that was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. So, ladies, I do have a few other questions for my after party, and then we're going to start winding down, okay? So
already? We're just getting started.
Right? Okay. So, some of the other things we talked about was, oh my God, it's so many. Okay, I'm going to have to consolidate some of these things, okay? So, one of the things we talked about was jealousy of physical appearance during puberty. Does anybody want to speak to that?
If I may, can I jump in? I know you are being mindful of time. I just want to say that last conversation about breaking the cycle.
Yes.
Everything that was said, so important. I just want to name that for those of us who have that violent abuse, whether it's physical or verbal, emotional, psychological, going no contact is your way out. If your mother is an active, malicious abuser, and I know it's not always the case, but for so many of us, it is. And it just has to be said plain and simple. Your mother was a malicious abuser. She was your enemy. She was your bully. She was someone you learned early on you had to protect yourself from. And for some of us, that could be unto death, like your very life. Your mother is not your ally. She will end your life in service of her emotional needs if it comes down to that. No contact is necessary because you have PTSD, whether you know that or not. And it cannot begin to surface. That trauma that's repressed, that you've been through, it can't come out until you're done being attacked. So if you're still low contact, you're still holding that space, that's how much space you're holding that prevents you from actually feeling the fullness of your trauma. The flashbacks will not come. maybe some, but you're not going to feel everything that you've been to until you actually cut contact and you give it time.
That's right.
um, and so also self-loathing. If you have been maliciously abused by your parent, your relationship with your inner child is probably extremely dysfunctional, and you probably hate yourself. You may not have unpacked that yet, but when we can't hate our parent for abusing us, we hate ourselves for being abused as a child. So
Mhm.
there's a brokenness in your self-love and your ability to love and respect yourself. That's what was taught to you. And in order to repair that, you need no contact with that maternal abuser whatsoever.
Mhm.
You need time and space for all the feelings to come to the surface. And the methods that I recommend for doing that, again, I can echo therapy. Get one-on-one support with somebody who understands and is going to lead you in the right direction, not re-traumatize you. Um, Nada acupuncture is an excellent source here. It will help to accelerate that surfacing of your repressed trauma, so that you can more effectively and efficiently move through that period of disillusionment in between no contact and actually feeling better. And then for women who are also mothers, focusing on building a friendship with your child along with your parental relationship as they grow older makes the difference. And if you are a woman who has chosen no contact with your mother, talk to your kids about that. Collaborate with them about whether or not they want a relationship with grandma. What does that mean? What might that look like? Because a lot of times, um, I've seen both. I've seen grandma have a positive relationship with their grandchildren because they've grown in their capacity to give that love in that relationship. But also a lot of times grandma will continue that those narcissistic tendencies in their relationship with their grandchildren, will hijack their grandchildren, use them against their own child, continue to triangulate. And so it may not be best for them to have a relationship with grandma, and especially if it means that you are going to be upset every other week because of something she did or said or some covert attack that she launched. If it's going to continuously drain your energy, consider just letting it go entirely.
Mhm. Wow. To add to the complexity, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's so many different layers of complexity. I'm like, I don't know if it needs another panel, honestly, because I feel that like there's so many other topics we're going to talk about, but I feel like I don't want to veer the conversation in that direction in terms of the other topics we're going to talk about, because there's so much richness that I want us to still get to in terms of the comment section. So I wanted to make sure that we got enough time to go over the comment section because there were some questions also. But I did want to ask one last question though from the after party. Okay, so the one last question dealt with the anticipatory grief issue, right? So can we talk a little bit about that? About either low contact, no contact with mom, and the anticipation issue about grief with mom.
I had a friend who is low contact with her narcissistic mother, and even trying to explain to her the difference, she didn't grasp it, the grief, because she was like, what, for example, she said, I'm imagining when my mother is gone, when I'm imagining when my grandmother is gone, I'm imagining when my aunt is gone. And
Mhm.
I said, that's how I'm living, but they're not gone.
Mm.
That's the grief I live with every day, but they are walking around. And
Mm.
it's hard to conceive if you're not no contact,
Right.
because it's a different, it's we're in the same world, but there is a demarcation. It is a very different experience when they are alive and you're grieving them as if they're not.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, I don't know how to language it any differently, because I didn't know it until I experienced it. My brain could not reach that until I actually was living that reality.
Yeah. So you're grieving every day for somebody who is still living.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting for me because, and I know that Sandra, you're going to talk about this too, as far as the distance, right? In a way, for me, going through this process, I like Elle feel the same. Like I've grieved. Like when she passes, it'll be, the finality to what has already been a lengthy period of grief, if that makes sense. And so, even now, it's funny because my son and I have like regular conversations, right? And we were out to lunch on Friday, and I was saying, the family's trying to pull me into a situation back home. And I said, and I'm right here at my healing journey, and I'm just not ready to go back in that role for the reason that they're asking me to be in that role. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I've had to bounce this. I've had to have conversations with people that I know are safe, not about what she needs, but about what I need. And what I realize is that what she's asking for at this point in my healing journey, I don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to do. And I can do that without guilt. This is the first time ever. And she mentioned it. She's like, well, if I go on the table and if I don't wake up, I told them to do a DNR, do not resuscitate. Can you come and take care of me? And the answer is no, I can't. I'm in a space because my mind says if I go back there right now at this moment, I'll be stuck back in that role and I won't be able to get back out. Knowing that's the dynamic of what it is, I have to make a difficult choice to those on the outside, right? But for me, I come first. And it's unfortunate, but I have other siblings, and it's like, you're gonna have to get somebody else to do it. Like I can't show up in that role, in that space, because it's not healthy for me, even though you need something. There's millions of people between me and you. Get somebody else to do it.
Got it.
I want to say this and to credit Danny, because Danny came into my life and my cognition at a time when I was grieving and I wasn't even sure what it was. And Danny helped me name it, helped me understand that, oh, you are definitely grieving the loss of, I think at that time I might have been maybe a year or two maybe into going no contact, and just tearful. I couldn't understand why I was in paradise and had been in beautiful places, beautiful countries, but from time to time, this grief would just overcome me. And Danny helped me slow down my thinking. So I'm telling you, Danny, I don't know, do you still offer this service? If she does, and you are in need of it, I am telling you, it was absolutely a game changer for me. And it's a process. Now, of course, we're fast forward 3, 4, I think that was about 4 years ago. I don't cry about that stuff anymore, y'all. It is like grief. For me, and I know this is going to sound so harsh, but I've said goodbye to my mother. I've basically said goodbye. And if something were to happen, I've already grieved. I haven't had a relationship that was loving and close, and she hasn't been a part of my daily life. I don't go to her for things. It doesn't exist. And so I know it sounds harsh, but I've already said goodbye. It's almost as if we've already had the funeral and there's nothing left now but to actually have the funeral. If my mother were to get sick, I don't know. I feel so resolved in, if she was in a coma, I could probably go back and do whatever they needed to do because I'm not emotionally attached to it anymore. I see it for what it is. It is what it is. It happened. I've grieved it. The relationship is never going to be what I thought I wanted it to be as a child. It's over. It's over, mama. It's done. And I think I could absolutely, I don't know who's to say, but I think I could step in that space because I'm okay. I'm okay with the way it turned out because in the end, we were able, my daughter and I think that healing there, it was worth all of it. And if I had to come through and do all of that work and we had to have this difficult and blah, 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 all of the stuff so that I could arrive at this point, I'm okay. I'm okay. But the grieving is a process and it's been years. So I don't know, a total of 6 years. How long do you grieve the death of anybody? Does it ever go away? I don't know. But I don't cry about it anymore. Not like that. I grieve for the little girl. If I grieve for anything, I grieve for that little girl who didn't get everything that she needed and she deserved. I no longer really grieve about the relationship between me and my mother being over because it's just over. It is what it is.
Well, thank you, Sandra. What about you, Danny?
That is so good. Thank you for saying that, Sandra, for several reasons. So, for those of us who have a narcissist for a parent, once we become an adult, she stops being our mother. So, we lose her anyway. The idea that we're staying in a relationship with her for some benefit is a lie, a fantasy. It's a program, it's a carrot that's being dangled in front of us. And if we ignore ourselves again and again, if we allow ourselves to repeat that cycle of abuse again and again, we lose our lives in our mother trying to get her to love us. And so, what I tell clients is you need to face that fear and that grief now. Otherwise, it will bully you for the rest of her life. And then when she goes into the ground, you will have nothing left of yourself.
Mm.
You need to face the grief now while she's a phone call away. Gather
Mhm.
yourself now while you can bail out, because you're going to come to the day when you don't. Most of us, for the most part, we lose our mothers at some point. You're going to lose your mother. What you need to do is make sure you don't lose yourself. And the relationship you have that you develop with your inner child, that's who's going to be there to hold you.
Wait, can I interrupt you, Danny, just for a second? Because I want to go back to, you are going to lose your mother. You have to make sure you don't lose yourself. That needs to be engraved. That needs to be in highlights. That needs to be on a marquee. That needs to be, you are going to lose your mother. You would have to make sure you don't lose yourself. That is the guiding
Yeah.
light. That is the North Star. That is
Danny,
powerful.
elaborate on that. Yes, elaborate on that, please.
Well, we unfortunately, and it kind of ties back into that issue of faith, right? We're going to be separated from our loved ones by death at some point,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? Grief is coming for us one way or another. And so if we allow it to bully us, what happens is we miss out on developing the relationship with ourselves that produces a whole individual. Unfortunately, the truth that we have to face as Black women is we do not come from a picture perfect family background. Regardless of socioeconomic status, wherever you fall into the array of Blackness, especially if you're American, we know what it is. So we have to face that. And that has implications for us as individuals, just like it does for us as a collective. And those little baby steps that you take when you reparent, when you unlearn to hate yourself, that self-loathing that was taught to you,
Come on, Danny.
you claim territory. You claim territory that Black women have not had the opportunity to set their feet on. And the grief, right?
Oh no, is she frozen? Oh no.
In the middle of it, right in the middle.
Oh no.
Danny is the truth. Danny is the
That
absolute truth, y'all.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know she's gonna come back. Okay, I know she's gonna come back, everybody. Okay. She was like in the middle. I'm like watching a movie. I'm like all intrigued. I'm like, what? What? Okay, so listen, this is what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Danny's gonna come back. She's frozen right now. She's gonna come back. I'm gonna start reading the community chat. When she comes back, then I'll bring her back and I'll let her finish up. Okay.
Perfect.
So I'll just wait for her to come back. Let me see. Is she back? No. Danny. No, she's still frozen. Okay. I'll wait for her to come back. Okay. So let me read the community chat. Okay. Let's see. Thanks for the live. The Mother's Day live was healing. I'm feeling this conversation. I have to deal with my mom in doses. How do you not engage emotionally? How did you do it? Question to the panel. How do you not engage emotionally with your mom?
Gray rock. It's a practice. It's a practice of literally, it comes from the idea of you acting like a gray rock. You have no emotional output. There's no emotional engagement. They could be, your mom could be, oh, la, la, la. And you're just like, okay, literally as
No
shut
affect.
down.
You
It's
can't
hard.
feed the monster. You can't feed it.
cannot
It
feed
is
it.
a game. It's almost like a game of monkey in the middle, and you're the monkey. And so, as long as you remove yourself from that dynamic, it can't exist. You step back because you're never going to win. You're never going to come out on top. Gray rock it is. Gray rock it is. Low contact, zero contact. There's no winning that game.
Well, it was not so simple for me. I'm gonna have to be honest and say, I was always ruminating. I mean, I moved from Michigan to Atlanta. So the first boundary I had was space. But even in the space, I was still completely enmeshed in my family. So it still took some time, even from the physical distance for me. Then, when I wasn't in some sort of emotional battle, I was in it in my head. It took me a moment for me to just stop and really realize you having a whole conversation with your mama in your head. She gone. I mean, she was living like rent free in my head, and it wasn't just her. Then I would have the conversation with whomever defended myself because they was gonna tell me I was wrong. Like it just went on and on and on and on incessantly. So for me, it started with physical distance. Then it was, I'm not going home every week. Then it was, I'm not sending you money. Then it was, I'm just going to take care of myself. But here's the thing, the more, you know, there was always jealousy between my mom and me. So the more successful I became to impress her, the more contentious our relationship was. And so it was one of those situations where you can't win. So for me, it was like, I just got to go lean into people who can be happy for me, who can hold space for me, who do have the ability when I say I have a need, not to argue with me about it or tell me I don't need it. So it was physical space first, then being in an environment with people who I eventually trusted enough to have conversations with. Then you get past the judgment of, but that's your mom. And you start explaining where yours is different. And then you create a pseudo family around you that gets it from a space where they're not judging you and you know who those safe people are. So for me, it was a continuum. It wasn't just I was taking myself back little by little by little by little.
Yeah. I would also add before I go to Danny, because Danny had us, we were waiting. Danny, we're glad you're back. Okay. So I want to say also therapy is helpful with that because a therapist can help you recognize like when you're taking a bait, like girl, don't take the bait. Like you keep falling for the bait, right? And not to go down rabbit holes. So therapy might help you so you don't kind of keep falling into these traps. Okay. Danny, turn it back over to you.
Um, Thank you. I think it might be the enemy trying not to get this message out there. Okay,
You
so
think
that grief,
We're gonna
that
persevere.
grief. So you mentioned the grief, right, for our inner child, for that little girl. And I think part of the reason why it's challenging for the women around us to see us maybe go no contact, go low contact, start setting boundaries and putting our first, embracing ease, is because they either didn't have that option realistically or chose not to go that direction. They chose to stay. They chose to ultimately sacrifice themselves. And the older that you get, I think it's harder to turn and go in the other direction because there's so much territory that you have given up. Once you become an adult, it's like you have the option then to choose yourself, your inner child. And if you don't, you become a part of that party that betrays and abandons her. So if you choose, 10, 20 years down the line after becoming an adult to go no contact, there are things you now have to forgive yourself for because there were times when you, out of your adult sovereignty, chose to put somebody before you. It feels a lot like recovering from an abusive partner, right? You have to forgive yourself because you had a part in your abuse. So when you're an adult being abused by your mother, I think when we allow too much time to go by, it feels too difficult to have to go all the way back to when were initially abused. Because ultimately, that's what is required, especially if true malicious abuse was involved. You need to go back to when you were first taught that you could not trust your parent and recover the pieces of yourself from that point forward. And it takes bravery to hear what your inner child has to actually say to you. Reparenting is that journey of going back into your traumas and observing them from adult eyes. You go back and become that advocate. that your inner child didn't have in the moment that the actual trauma occurred. You be brave enough to see what the adults around you ignored. So when you now have to go voicing that truth about who is an abuser, who did what, who said what, when you can see with your grown eyes, like, wait a minute, that was a whole crime.
Mhm.
That was a crime that took place. No sugarcoat to the people who have layers on layers on layers of trauma just stuffed down, and that's how they survive. You become a threat. So I saw in the chat a question: did you cut off the enablers as well? You ultimately have to.
Mhm.
Your boundaries are so expensive. You're going to have to cut off everyone who does not love and respect you unconditionally. And that's really what this comes down to. You'll find out a lot of people who say they love you conditionally approve of you.
Hello.
They have merit based favor toward you.
Hello.
They don't love you unconditionally because they don't love themselves unconditionally.
Merit
They
based.
also hate their inner child. We were taught to hate ourselves as a people, which is why Granny probably taught you that your hair texture was wrong. Your brother
Mhm.
was probably the first person to tell you that you were ugly or too dark or too this or too that. Master doesn't have to sit in the back of the church house anymore. We're hating ourselves. So when you commit to unconditional love for you, you're going to challenge and upset the people around you unintentionally. It's just it's going to happen, and it's okay. It has to be that way. And don't apologize, don't slow down, don't doubt yourself, don't shrink or minimize your healing for them, because if they're ever going to heal, they need to see you do it. You're the best hope that they have at truly healing. If they see you do it, then they'll know. Otherwise, it's not an option. So if you're that generational curse breaker, you're going to be set apart. You have to come out of it. You cannot expect validation and camaraderie with the generation that's under the curse that you are breaking.
That's right.
So your freedom has to matter more to you than community, than validation. And yes, it is lonely, but that loneliness is going to sharpen you. That loneliness is going to teach you how to embrace yourself beyond everyone's approval. And once you get on the other side of that, even if you're alone, you will be fulfilled. What you won't be is drained of all your life source from being attacked and dragged through a cycle of abuse again and again. And then, oh, surprise, then your mother passes away. How are you supposed to put the pieces of yourself together?
Mhm.
What typically happens is that person, that oldest daughter who's lost her mother and has now lost herself because she never stood up for herself at any point throughout the relationship, now becomes a narcissist herself. She now becomes the next gatekeeper for trauma to the generations around her, whether she means to or not. It's what she knows.
And
Yes,
Danny,
that was that.
just to kind of come in there, yes, it's lonely. Yes, it's hard. But when you clear all of that foolishness out, once you clear the slate, you make room for healthy women and healthy relationships. For me, you know, everybody has to go through it. If this is your lot, you have to go through it. There's no way around it. You just got to go through it. But I promise you, you become so astute at recognizing who's in alignment with you. And I have no room on the bus for folks that are not in alignment with me. If you are not in alignment, I don't waste any time. I don't make any apologies. And I stopped explaining. I
Mhm.
don't explain to anybody. Sis, this is not the bus for you. I am leaving these seats for women who uplift. I'm leaving. You can only sit in this seat if you are of a certain caliber. And I know what it sounds like, but it is what it is. And
Yeah.
you will learn to love yourself and value your time. All of it. Don't even block the sun. When if you're in my space and you blocking the sun, you can't stay.
Yeah.
I need that and I demand that. And I'm telling you, I will not do it. If women who gossip anything, if it shows up, no
Yeah.
sis,
Yeah,
not
we
That's
here.
need to
Not
check our
today.
circle, right? And we have to be mindful of who are we trying to get approval from, and who are we building community with? So if you're trying to get approval from people, we talk about these dysfunctional systems, from people who are trying to tell you to stay in a dysfunctional system where you're being harmed. It's like a toxic job. If people are trying to tell you to stay in a toxic job, why are you trying to get
They're
approval
part of the
from them?
problem.
They're part of the problem, right?
They're part of the
You want to
problem.
be in community with them. So we have to use discretion about who we want to be in community with, right? Danny, that was beautifully stated. Thank you, Danny.
The other
Yes.
thing I want to say about being steadfast even inside of the loneliness and getting to this other side where you choose who gets on your bus or who doesn't, is you have more choices about the life you want to intentionally and deliberately create for yourself than you ever would have had you stayed in that toxic, small, teeny tiny, microscopic world.
So true. So
when you
true.
say yes to you have the world is your oyster because you're now in charge. You are your own authority. You have not outsourced it to your toxic, narcissistic parent.
True.
That is real power.
True. Okay. So ladies, I'm really going to finish reading the community chat. Okay. Always that you should forgive. I stopped falling for that. Ditto to everyone. Ooh, tell me why the victim always has to forgive and the perp has no accountability. Shaking my head. Dealt with that aunt, dad passed. Her sister did some shady stuff and she told me to forgive. Haven't spoken to that lady until my dad passed. So no, right. Can see hear the sawdust. So remember, Sandra, you were like, I'll soft shoe past those people. Yes, boundaries. I'm learning how to do this now. Like L took me years. Now I'm just getting to trust my intuition. Thankful to this community. Hi, Dr. Kamani and guest. Hello. Question for the guest. How did the relationship with your mother affect other parts of your life before and after no contact?
I was on Danny's channel. Danny, is that our conversation up yet?
I was just going to say, I just wrote down a note to mention it. Elle and I had a fabulous conversation about all of this. I will send it to you, Dr. Kamani, to put in the description. If any of this resonates, definitely go watch it. It was so good. It was so good.
Oh, good.
It was so powerful.
Okay. So I'll put in the description section.
I want to answer this question though, because because I mentioned this in my conversation with Danny, so this is why I'm circling back to it. Yeah. One thing I had to learn, and I didn't get this until I went through the hell of it, right? But what I got clear about is that my mother is not my higher power. My mother is not my God. My mother is not my higher power. She's not the doer. She's not the decider. She's not the authority of my life. But I had to I just want to make sure I'm looking at the question. How did the relationship with your mother affect other parts of your life before? So then when I realized that God is my God, like my higher power is actually my higher power, not my mother. And I could put her in the right place, because part of the Black mother wounding is pedestalizing the Black mother. Like she's untouchable. We treat her like she's the authority. And then if she's narcissistic, it's even more like untouchable, right? Because then we have all that mental warbly wobbly. So that is how it affected my life. And I'm like, so many of y'all have said, like, oh, my relationship with source, creator, that's unobstructed now. Like now I'm just an open channel. Right now not that I wasn't before, but now there's no middleman, right? Like there's no decider who's like putting mixed signals in there about like, I have to please her or abide by her distorted rules in order to be a valuable human. No, I was born this way. God already made it that way. So demoting my mother from this idea of her being my higher power was my true liberation.
That's powerful.
If I can just piggyback on that real quick, if I can just name that matriarchal center to our community, again, is the working of slavery. And there was a time when the Black mother was a savior, right? Like practically she was a savior for our community because dad is absent one way or the other. And we do look to her, right? We do put her on a pedestal because on the one hand, she deserves to be on a pedestal. But the inversion of that is now generations removed when the matriarch has become the narcissist. And to answer that question, I keep hearing it. We're talking about how narcissistic family systems overlap with the toxic job. There are 5 areas of our life that we need to check for narcissists. home, it's work, it's church if you partake in any way, it's your love relationships, those love partnerships, and your peer relationships,
Mm.
school, friendships, any sort of peer communities you belong to. Those are the areas you want to check your life for those narcissistic connections. So all of that is affected if you have a narcissistic parent.
Mm.
And just so that I don't forget, because we mentioned faith earlier, just a little
Mm.
tidbit for those who are believers.
Mm.
If you're a believer and you're a Black woman with a narcissistic mother who's going low or no contact, and you have not yet received your heavenly prayer language, I highly recommend that you learn more about the baptism of the Holy Spirit. Start with Acts chapters 1 and 2. There is a power for you
Mm.
that makes it easier to do the things that are impossible. Jesus did not go to the cross in his own strength. He required the anointing of the Holy Spirit to sacrifice his flesh. You're not going to pick up your cross and carry it successfully without the power to do what your flesh does not want to do. Cutting your mother off is not something that you just do and maintain, right? Going no contact and staying no contact are two different things. So if you are a believer, you've already been baptized, you all of that, born again, blood washed, but you haven't received that, you don't know about that. That's something I highly recommend you look into because it's going to make a world of difference. I just want to mention that.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, yes, trust your gut. For years, I thought I was being too sensitive or overreacting to certain things that were said or done to me by her. Oftentimes, I'm holding on because they are a mother, father, etc. A vast majority of older Black women experience trauma and they have not dealt with the issue. Neither do they desire therapy to start the process towards healing. Heavy on they don't desire therapy. I learned that my sensitivity arrived because I had to be. I developed sensitivity and mood shifts in the household as a child with the yelling and arguing that happened. Also, I heard of the Body Keep Score. Yes. Okay, I posted the name of the books already that Sandra mentioned. My mom said I'm too young to have health problems when she's the one that helped cause them, the nerve. Let's see. They said, thank you for the book recommendations. Let's see. Autoimmune can be as mild as eczema, hair loss, psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis. They talk about the blink list. Thank you for this dialogue. So sorry for your experience. We see you. This is difficult. A large majority of Black older women have some characteristics of a narcissistic. And although we must honor our mother, we can love them from a distance. Gross neglect and abandonment on a different level. Thank you. Yeah, that's reminded me of the things I liked about my mom. Oh, definitely. That's real talk. The mom can be one way with you and a totally different way with outsiders. It's something about us that triggers their inner demons. So true. Hey, Marissa, good to see you. Thanks for sharing your perspective, acknowledging both trauma lenses as child and mother. Let's see. Okay. Oh, we talked about this. We talked about preventing, we talked about generational transmission. And everybody, yes, give this video a thumbs up and share this video. Go straight to performing after 1000%. Let's see. Shame, ignorance, leverage. I needed this when I was your age, when I was growing up. I appreciate all these sessions. Thank you all, Dr. Kamani, for providing this platform. You're welcome. Now I don't feel isolated and alone. These takens, the tokens, the tokens that they worked hard for. Please keep doing these types of panels on the topic of mother-daughter estrangement and the dysfunctional family unit. Beautiful ladies, thank you for sharing your stories. I'm in tears. I just had to let go of my sister. I'd hoped that she would be an ally. She kept talking about the family and it was triggering me. I had to cut the allyship. This happened today. I'm alone now, me and my husband, period. We suffer no fools. Okay, we are bosses. Wow, indeed. So special, sacred work. This is really sacred work. Yes, I've watched all 3 of the episodes. My husband, too, he was treated like the black daughter. So we support one another. This happens to men, too. Generational crap breaking is hard work. Yes, it is. Beautiful woman. Did anyone on the panel ever get feedback from a family member that they modeled how to leave the toxic relationship? Had you guys ever seen anybody else in the family do this before you guys did it? Or were you guys the first ones to do it?
I don't think for me it was leaving as much as the boundary setting. I think that we were so enmeshed and people were just stepping over boundaries so much that just setting even small boundaries, I've noticed a lot, and I've had conversations with my siblings about that.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I was in so much pain today. You helped me to continue on the journey. Wow. I can never go back. I love myself too much. Good to hear. I'm sorry that you were in so much pain, but I'm glad that this conversation was helpful for you. Toxic mom, toxic job, shaking my head. I follow all these women who have YouTube channels. Good. That's awesome. That's an amen from the sixth dimension. Ditto, an observer. Do we have the same family? They're like, oh my God, so many parallels. We are truth tellers, clueless or didn't care. Yes, we are. They don't like the truth. We don't even say a word. Yes, our families are sacred to do the work. No, our families are scared to do the work. I think it started with therapy as well. For me, everyone wants to confirm and fit it, even if it is wrong at all costs. That feeling I noticed more when I took time away from career seeking, job seeking. Let's see, breaking the cycle. We talked about enablers, we talked about already. You have done several videos about your journey that I saved to my playlist to help me a lot. Good. Okay. Getting chills, even imagining an apology from my mom or the adults who enabled and ignored. We weren't created to be their emotional punching bags. True. Oh, my mother is definitely my number one hater. No contact was mandatory. Thanks for touching on how to not make the same mistakes with our daughters. There's a latent effect. You distance yourself, and then much later, boom, here are the memories, etc. As Dr. Kamani says all the time, we cannot heal in the place or around people who harmed us. So true. Also, don't let your child abuse you. So true. Yep, the amount of criticism I received from my mother is proof she's jealous. Agreed. The jealousy is real. It's a mind F when the people you can't be a community with are walking the earth. I'm grieving all the time, a motherless child whose mom is still alive. It's not like they're in a coma, jail, etc. I totally feel you. It is not. It does that. My straight up my straight up said parents who apologize to their children give up their power. That is not true. That is not true. That is something I think some Black people believe, that if we apologize to our children, we're giving up power. That is not true. We make mistakes as parents. We make mistakes.
Mhm.
So when we apologize to our children, that shows us that we have compassion and that we are humble enough to acknowledge that we made mistakes, right? Some parents get so locked into we can't apologize, then you don't repair the relationship. So we need to reject that as Black
And
parents.
Dr. K, I don't mean to jump in, but there's another book called Humble is the Way. And I'm telling you, humility, you can't do this work without some degree of humility.
So true.
We are exactly those people when you can't apologize.
Yes, that's ridiculous. Okay, it's the best decision. Sadly, I did not attend my mom's funeral since the enablers and secondary abusers were there. I already said my goodbyes decades ago. You have to allow your body to grieve. It'll take long. How long it takes. That's what I did. I say goodbye one at a time. The detachment. You did what you could control and change the generational trajectory emotionally. Thank you for sharing the information about the funeral. It has helped me. I acknowledge that I attended my grandmother's funeral with no emotion. I grieved over what should have been much earlier. I hear you. She said once you become an adult, she is no longer your mother. I will start facing the grief. This is such I can't say that. When I tell you, I just threw my shoe at the phone, at this phone. Preach, Danny. Restart. Okay. Unpacking the shame allows you to put yourself in the bag and carry you. Thank you. I did not feed the monster. Thank you, Sandra. I had toxic hopelessness that things would change. I've been in this journey for over a decade. It takes time. Thank you to the panel. Powerful conversation. I'm going to replay this several times. There's shame and guilt around not having the TV mother and daughter relationship. I've been looking for support group for years and found supportive content on YouTube, as this is the only social media I do. I'm working on the distance. Dr. Ramani, yes, on YouTube is a great resource on gray rocking and other tactics to deal with narc abuse. Agreed, true. Or telling you all the ways in which it's wrong and you don't know what you're doing, everything will fall apart. It's not your fault, not no guilt. Exactly. Message was wrong. It was wrong. Too much truth. My siblings admire me for doing this early, but they still stay conformed to the community. Being the oldest child, you see more. Go, Danny. Yep. Thanks for answering, Danny. This is the path I'm on currently. Fire bars. Clock that. They are on fire. Okay, your boundaries are expensive. Um, Very expensive. It's okay. We can show them better. We can tell them point blank. You got the power fire panel. Adding this to my playlist. Thank you. The loneliness is going to sharpen you. Yes. No, thank you. Yes. Make room. The panel is anointed. I agree. Healthy relationships. Once you actually become clear and free with yourself from that, get off the bus. Sandra said that. Get off the bus and don't block the sunshine. I can't wait to watch part 1. Can I express how grateful I am to be listening and learning? We're primed for toxic jobs by toxic family systems. Absolutely. Toxic job, toxic relationship, toxic systems, etc. Here with Marissa. I will check it out. Ellen Danny, speak the truth for Black women. That's a word. Stop holding mothers as demigods. I'm screaming. This resonates, hitting my soul. Heart needed this. My mother is not my higher power. That's so powerful. God is my God. I'll remember that. I came in tears of sadness, no tears of joy. Throwing my shoes at the daggone screen. Y'all better say that. Dad is absent one way or the other. Yes, even for those of us who had fathers present in the house. Homework, church, love, relationships, peer relationships. I'm cheering and clapping. I find the current state of our relationship so challenging because I recognize how disempowered and unloved she feels, and no amount of empowerment and care I try to show her sticks. Honestly, I feel sorry for her. Can the panel please post their channels? I'll put all of their channels in the description section, and as we check out, they're each going to tell their panels as well. And I see Elle put her channel, and Danny put her channel. And look at Marissa. Marissa's so dope. Okay, so I'll put everybody's channels in the chat too. Okay, in the description section. As an African, we're taught that parents carry your blessings, but never acknowledge the trauma they put on their children. Thanks for dropping the links. Sandra's channel's right here, and then Tisha's channel's right here. Okay, there's only one. Okay, got it. Okay. So again, I'll put everybody's channel in description section. So briefly, ladies, I know we're a little over. Okay, so Tisha, Sandra, Elle, Danny, you guys are dope, amazing, phenomenal, all those things, okay? So just briefly share about your YouTube channel and then offerings you have, and then we're going to wind it down. So Tish, let's start with you.
Oh, so thank you. So the book I wrote is called Radical Resilience. It is called Radical Resilience, Confront Chaos, Untangle Toxic Ties, and Thrive in Midlife. It really was a gift that I gave to myself to really kind of unpack all the things that I have gone through. And I also have a free download. It's called Radiant Reinvention. It is a 12-step roadmap to make over your life after trauma. And it was used kind of as a guide for me to get from where I was to where I am. And I coach women on kind of moving from that spot where you're in midlife and things have fallen apart. What do you do next? So for me, I thank you for this opportunity. I can tell you there has been so much healing on my part since even our first panel that I just appreciate Danny and Sandra and Elle so much for your insights, because you know, you're not feeling alone anymore, that you have women who have done the work, that are powerful women who are transparent with their trauma, and we're healing each other. And thank you so much, ladies, for sharing this space with me.
Oh, thank you. And everybody, her YouTube channel is right on the screen. Okay, but description section too. Sandra.
My name is Sandra, of course, and my channel is From Lack to Legacy. We're all things money, investing, mindset, trading. I actually host a learning community that meets twice a month, and we talk about money, even money trauma. So all of it is being addressed and dealt with and a beautiful community of Black women. I'm telling you, if you want something done well, get you a community of Black women around it. And so we welcome you if you're interested in healing in that area as well. And as always, ladies, I just honor your journey. I honor just your ability to be so transparent and share. It is healing for me. Every time I leave here, I feel more joyful and more at ease. And for an introvert, this would have been exhausting to be with people and talking for 2 hours. But I know that I'm in good company when I leave after a 2 hour conversation and I feel edified. So thank you. And thank you, Dr. K, for always just being the best hostess with the mostest.
Oh, thank you, Sandra. I appreciate you, my Chicago sister. Elle.
Hi, thank you again, Dr. Kimani, for having us. Thank you, panel. It is deeply healing. It is deeply nourishing and deeply healing. So thank you for us and everyone who's here. So I'm Elle, also known as the Empress of Ease, creator of the House of Ease, where most of my clients are super high achievers. And super high achievers, I have to say in quotes, because most Black women don't, no matter how much they've achieved, don't want to identify as high achievers. So it's up to your own interpretation. But I will say most of my clients are folks, women who have ticked all the boxes, did all the quote unquote right things, followed the path that was laid out for them. That's degrees, that's accomplishments, that's achievements, that's the house, that's the white picket fence, that's the horse, the house, that's the career. Maybe it's the horse, maybe you're an equestrian, I don't know. And then you get to the place and you look to the place that you thought you were headed for, and you look around and you're like, this is what I signed up for. It's unfulfilling. You're burnt out. You're exhausted. You're miserable. You feel disconnected. And you're like kind of scared to say it out loud because you don't want people to think that you wasted your life, essentially. And there's a deep longing for something that actually fulfills you. That's most of the women that I work with come to me, and I help you get back on track with who you are and what you want and how to live a life that actually lights you up from the inside out, that doesn't just look good on paper, but that actually feels good and true to who you truly are. So I offer one-on-one, I offer group, I offer 3-month mentorship. There's lots of different ways to work with me. And thank you. And I have a burnout recovery toolkit, which is completely free. You can just go to houseofease.com and it'll pop up and you can join that. So thank you again for being here. If any of that resonates with you, I would love to work with you.
Thank you, my Spelman sister.
Yes.
Yes. And Danny.
Yes, well, thank you all again for being here to hold this space. As always, Dr. Kamani, for allowing us to have a space to meet, but it really means a lot. I know not just to me, but to everyone who resonates with this conversation, to have women to go before them and be the poster child for no contact, for low contact. It's not an easy thing to do, and I appreciate the work that you have all done to show up to this conversation. So thank you, and it is an honor to be included amongst you. My YouTube channel is Danny Went No Contact. Definitely go and follow there. I will send the link for our conversation that Elle and I had, so you can go watch this one right after. It will definitely resonate. As far as services that I offer, my calendar is open for one-on-one coaching. If you are a Black woman who is on this journey, especially if you're new to no contact and you are ready to put the dissonance behind you, you really want someone to get in the trenches with you and work through that self-loathing, have a safe space to face the traumatic experiences without feeling overwhelmed or confused, please allow me to shorten the distance that you go from point A to point B. I would love to help you on your journey. You can visit me at ellisoninc.com, subscribe to my mailing list, and you'll get everything that you need to move forward with working with me, And then there are also free resources available if you're a Black woman who's specifically estranged with your mother. So I just want to say as a final thought, if you are this Black woman, understand that you are the next generation of savior in your bloodline. So don't be surprised when they crucify you.
Ooh.
You are not alone. Your story is not a monolith. We are on a collective journey, and you belong to a collective of pioneer leaders who break generational and systemic cycles. So stay strong and please keep going.
Wow. Thank you, Danny. That was powerful. Powerful. Okay, so this is a very powerful part two, part three conversation. I can't remember what part we on. Okay, but again, this really shows the need for these ongoing conversations about complicated mother-daughter relationships, and again, to give voice to things that we don't often talk about. The hope is that this conversation has been liberating for so many Black women, and now that we recognize certain things, we can see other patterns in our lives, and we can start taking steps to liberate ourselves. The key is liberation. So, everyone, I'm so happy that you were here today. I'm so happy that you were engaged. I'm so happy that you were so involved in the chat. My hope is that you can go back and reflect on the information we shared today, that you share this information with other Black women to help liberate them as well. Again, I'm so thankful to my panel. Outstanding, outstanding information that you share with everyone. And again, give this video a thumbs up. And everyone, I will see you later. And again, this week I'm having a guest coming in to the membership community talking about perimenopause and menopause for Black women. So if you want to be a part of the private membership community for Black women, you can join the YouTube community. You just click the join button and you can be a part of the members live. Okay. So everyone, I will see you later. Panel, if you guys can stay on. See you later. Bye.
Okay.